Good morning and welcome to Truck Weight Analysis Weight Distribution Fundamentals. TruckScience partnered with NTEA in 2019 to provide members with a next-level solution for calculating axle weights. We extend a special welcome to NTEA members joining us this morning. My name is John McLean and I'm a Digital Marketing Executive at TruckScience. Weight analysis is fundamental to good truck design. This webinar is for people with an interest in vehicle weight management who would like to learn more about using the TruckScience Axle Weight Calculator. When we think of good truck design, there are many considerations to be taken into account. Let's take a look at some of these considerations. So we need to consider the regulations in the state or states in which the truck will be operated. These regulations vary depending on the number of axles, axle spacing, tires, and more. We need to comply with OEM ratings, including gross vehicle weight rating and gross axle weight ratings. We need to ensure that the axle weight distribution supports the braking ability, for example, by ensuring that a significant portion of the total weight is being carried on the front axle. We usually have a goal of maximizing payload capacity. We want to right-size the truck, both to reduce capital costs and reduce fuel consumption. We want to avoid undue maintenance or rework, or indeed invalidating the vehicle warranty. We need to be mindful of rollover stability by keeping the center of gravity as low as possible. Turning radius becomes important, for example, a garbage truck that will need to turn in a residential area. There are lots of other considerations too, including site infrastructure, driver needs, and internal standards stipulated by your organization. But in general, those are some of the things we need to bear in mind when laying out a vehicle, and we'll cover them directly or indirectly in the live demo in just a moment. So this webinar will be a basic introduction to the TruckScience Axle Weight Calculator for people who are pretty new to the tool and a refresher for those who are a little rusty. Even regular users may pick up a few tips. We'll cover how to calculate axle weights and center of gravity. We'll check compliance against OEM ratings, state regulations, and your own organization's own internal best practice guidelines. I'll help you realize your vehicle's payload potential. I'll show you how to use the TruckScience library of product specs and how to have something added to it. I'll also explain the options for having your own products added to it. I'll show you how to share your designs with other users of the app and how to generate a sign-off document with true-to-life drawings customized with your own logo. And lastly, I'll show you where to get help if you get stuck. So I'll just pop into the live demo now. Okay, so to start a new calculation, we must first choose a chassis. So let's choose a Ford from the manufacturer's specs. We can browse the vehicles by brand and range. So we'll go for a Ford Super Duty 4x4, and we can filter here for 550 regular, and we can also sort the list by CA. So we'll go for one with an 84-inch CA. Double check here. This should accommodate an 11-foot service body. So the information we see on the drawing, the dimensions, chassis weights, and axle ratings has been sourced from the Ford Bodybuilder portal. We have a data team who are constantly adding and updating specs in this library. So just a few pointers to bear in mind before we carry on. So on the left-hand side, we can input vehicles, bodies, equipments, and payload. The dashboard down here will verify compliance with manufacturer's ratings, regulation limits, and our own organization's internal standards, and to display favorite measurements. The weights table over here to see a detailed weight distribution and compliance information and to determine maximum achievable payload. Because this vehicle does not have a body, the auto-calculated maximum payload figure on this weights table will be 0 for now. On the right-hand side, we'll switch views and examine outputs. And along the top, we print, save, and share calculations. and define our own preferences for the program. When deciding whether to add a body, equipment, or payload, consider the following guidelines. A body has payload capacity, whereas equipment does not. Equipment is permanently attached to the vehicle, whereas payload is loaded on and off. Let's add a body using the second icon on the left. As with the vehicle library, the tool has a library of body specs, again with drawings, dimensions, and weights, etc. So let's add our body here. We can search, we'll add a service body, and you can search the public library for preloaded standard bodies from well-known brands. In this case, we'll add a Reading body. So we can click on the body then to open the body menu. Since this is a standard spec from Reading, a regular user does not have permission to edit dimensions, but rather just weights and center of gravity. As you can see, the length, height, and width dimensions here are all grayed out, but the center of gravity and weights are editable. An upfitter may choose to use a standard body like this, whereas a body manufacturer might like to experiment with different body design. We provide templates for this, and we'll get to that in just a moment. Note that body manufacturers who wish to make their bodies available in the program can choose to make them available to all users or just approved distributors. Let's use the scissors now just to remove this body. Okay, so we found the Reading body in the public library. This time we'll use a TruckScience template to design our own body. So we'll go back here to add a body and service body, and we'll use our template here. Okay, so the templates are more generic drawings, but offer greater flexibility in terms of what you can edit. So you can click on the body then to see here now, in contrast to the Reading body, the length, height, and width fields are all now editable. They come with sensible default values for weights and dimensions. Okay, now would be a good time to point out the color-coded indicators beneath the drawing. The compliance scorecard on the left flags any non-compliance with manufacturers' ratings, bridge weights, or our own organization's internal standards. Green indicates that everything is good for now. So let's open the settings dialog here and to customize our dashboard. First, we'll choose the regulations that will be applied to our design. First, so we see here in our regulations, we'll clear our list and we'll just use, say, Texas as our example. And we'll go for state roads. And now we can see you can use, you can select up to 5 states at once. And here in our favorite measurements, these will be displayed on the bottom half of your dashboard. You can see here that I've selected gross weight on vehicle front, and also I selected the gross weight of vehicle front and also the vertical center of gravity overall. Okay, and you can choose your own ones here. We also define our own internal organization standards in the settings dialog. These are limits that may not be covered by regulations or the OEM spec for the vehicle, but which your organization has put in place with the aim of delivering safe and efficient vehicles. An example of this is to specify a minimum of 20% on the front axle to ensure that the weight can be steered and stopped safely. These can be toggled on and off with these checkboxes on the left. So I'll just OK that. The weights table shows a breakdown of the weights per component in the rows and across the axles here in the columns. So see this unused capacity row shows any capacity that is being left on the table, so to speak. When the total column shows utilization of 100%, you know you're realizing the total payload potential of the vehicle. So blue text in the weights table or on the drawing indicates a clickable shortcut. Shortcuts open the menu on the left at the relevant attribute. For example, if we go up here to body length, and we can also click in here just to edit a few different dimensions on the body length. So as you make changes to the body dimensions, you'll notice that the graphic and weights table are updated on the fly. So let's change this length here to 133 inches. And we can change our height here to 38 inches. And we can change our material weight here down to 91 pounds per foot. We can also change that to an absolute value of just pounds, but we'll keep it at pounds per foot for now. So reducing the weight of the body increases the maximum achievable payload. So the current payload here is around 8,508. So if I reduce the body weight, let's say to 88, we'll notice that that payload now has gone up to 8,542. So I'll just bring that payload back, or sorry, bring that body weight back to 91. Okay, so let's add some equipment using the third icon on the left-hand side. So just here, we'll add equipment, we'll add a crane. So many NTA member equipment manufacturers have added their equipment specs to the TruckScience library. So Liftmore is one such company, so you'll find their drawings, weights, and dimensions for Liftmore crane models in this library. So let's use a Liftmore, for example. So we'll go with this Liftmore crane. So note that the crane's weight has now been included in the total unladen weight down here in the weights table. Watch how the weights change on the front and rear axles as I drag this crane along. So I'll just drag it back and forth a bit dramatically there just so you can see it change. And I'll position it just, let's get it just there. Looks good. Okay, so next we'll add a generator. So we'll go back to equipment, hit the plus symbol. We'll go down to other for the generator, and we'll add a Lincoln generator. Yeah, okay. And so we can position this generator the same way we did with the crane, but we can also click into it and position it either from the back of the cab and above below the chassis. So we'll do that here. We'll do, say, 4 inches from the back of the cab. Above below the chassis, we'll do 26 inches. But if you wanted to specify the position differently, you could specify the body position here in settings. Sorry, I probably went a bit quick there, but if you go up to settings, go to preferences, and then you can specify the body position from back of cab or from frontmost axle, and you can specify equipment position from the back of the cab or frontmost axle. Okay, so let's override the default weight and center of gravity of this. So we'll click into it again. We'll go to weight, and we'll override the weight by clicking the small box, and we'll go 432 for the weight. And we'll override that center of gravity to 45, meaning 45%, meaning 45% of the distance from the front to the rear generator. Note that this may be specified as an absolute value also in inches. To see a detailed position and dimension attributes, you can also pin this generator here with this little pin, and you can see they pop up there, the detailed dimensions. So if one of the axles had shown a utilization of 100% and the other significant unused capacity, this represents an opportunity to gain payload by moving some items around. Let's temporarily exaggerate the weight of this generator to show that. So we'll click into our generator again, go to the weight, and we'll set our weight now to 4,000 pounds. Okay, so as you can see now, the front axle is overloaded with a utilization score of around 106%, but the rear has 55% unused capacity, and payload has been zeroed now. Shifting the generator towards the rear will give a more even utilization spread, as you can see there, and brings our payload to 3,633 pounds. And we've reached that holy grail of having our total utilization at 100%. Okay, as you've seen, information is inputted on the left-hand side of the screen, where you'll find, on the left-hand side of the screen, yeah, and you'll find the output views on the right-hand side here. So we can see now that we're in side view. So let's switch to top view here. Okay, so we can see we're in top view. We can actually edit these width dimensions for the depth of the of the left compartment. We'll change that to 25, and the right compartment is also 25 inches. And we can position the crane here to curbside. So we can position it laterally to curbside like that. And we can grab our generator and position it to roadside. Okay, so I'll go back to side view here. So before I move on, I'll just undo that overridden weight and those pin dimensions. So now we have a proposal to agree with the customer. The GVWR on this vehicle is 17,500 pounds, and the payload capacity is 7,185 pounds. So we'll send this design to our drafting technician for a more realistic body drawing for our customer sign-off document. So firstly, we'd save it, and we'll save it as webinar 2024. Okay, and then we can share it with our drafting technician, my company. So, and we can share that to him now. Okay, so after some time has elapsed and we receive the drawing back from our drafting technician, we can replace the body template on the drawing. So let's grab that drawing we put on, or grab that body we put on earlier, and we'll use the scissors to get rid of it. So we can go back to our body on the left-hand side, click on Service Body, and we can import our own DXF drawing. So we can choose a file here, and here's one that I have prepared. So add in. So there's our drawing. We click Next. We can position on the XY axis. We can input some values here. So for length, we'll put in 133 inches. Height. For longitudinal height, we'll go for 5 inches. The total height has been scaled off the drawing. So the chassis top to bottom will be 12 inches. And our width, let's go for 94 inches here. And depth of the compartment on the left will be 25 and 25 again on the right. And we'll click Next. Our body weight, we go for 977 pounds. Sorry, it's 077. For 977 pounds. Our horizontal center of gravity, 45%. And then we click Next. And now we have to give our body a description. So we'll go for 2024, 0206, or sorry, 0214. So we'll save and add this body. And I'll just pop back into full screen here. Okay. So we can go back to this imported body, we can click on it, and we can also choose to save it to the team library so that colleagues can reuse it in the future, or we can share it to a distributor library so that the list of users you control can add it to their calculations. To make it available to all TruckScience users, you can choose to share it in the public library. Let's just cancel out of that. Okay, so up to now, we've been using the default simple or evenly distributed payload with an optimum maximum payload of 7,200 pounds. So let's add some user-defined point loads by switching to a detailed payload. So we can click over here and we can go to detailed payload, and we can add a generic payload template. And we can click on it to make some changes to it. So we'll give it some description that will be a bit more appropriate, like tools. And we can position it. Let's say we position it 2 inches from the headboard, 2 inches above blow 4, and 2 inches from the sidewall. And we'll give it a bit of a specification in terms of length. We'll say 30 inches. Height 32 inches, and the width 23 inches. Okay, and we'll also give it a weight. We'll go 750 pounds. Actually, before we do that, we'll actually give it a weight of 7,000 pounds, just to see what would happen. Okay, so Okay, so we've run into some compliance issues here. So the scorecard flags issues here with manufacturer's ratings, and also the weights table shows shows the front and total vehicle weights have been exceeded. So let's review this front axle. Let's review where this front axle limit comes from. So we'll click on this permissible value here, and we can see here that the maximum or the permissible or maximum permitted weight for the vehicle is 6,000 pounds, which is derived from the lesser of the GAWR of 6,000 pounds and the bridge limit of 20,000 pounds. In this case, the GAWR is the lesser. Upgrading the axle to say 8,000 pounds can sometimes solve this. Okay, but however, as we saw earlier, we could achieve a maximum payload of over 7,000 pounds. So let's just undo that, and we'll actually drag this toolbox towards the rear. So watch this. Now, as the front weight decreases and the rear weight increases, we reach a sweet spot where no axles are overloaded. And if we go too far back, we can see that the rear axle will become overloaded. Okay, so I'll just undo that now, just so you can see it. Okay, so remember that the blue values are shortcuts, so we can use this payload link again just to undo that weight. So we'll go to that weight, 7,000 pounds, and we'll change it to 750. Okay. So let's add a trailer now as well. So we'll choose a hitch from the standard list. We'll choose a hitch from the list of standard and sample products in the library. So we'll go to our equipment again, add the plus, and we'll go for pintle hook coupler, and we'll go for a tow hitch, ball type medium. Yeah. And we'll just drag that down a little bit, so it looks a bit more friendly. Okay, so now we'll add our trailer. So we'll go for a center axle drawbar. And we'll add a beaver tail. Okay, and we'll also add some payload on top of that trailer. We'll add detailed payload, and we'll add a bobcat. So note tongue weight or hitch load here is expressed as a percentage of the total trailer weight. So if I drag this bobcat, it'll increase or decrease the tongue weight. So I'll just drag it a little bit so you can see there. Okay, to center the bobcat laterally, like we did before, we'll go back to top view. And we can grab it there, drag it to top view, or drag it to the center. And we can go back to side view. Okay, you can explore the views in detail in your own time, but let's have a quick look at them now. So here we'll go to our summary view for the vehicle, which is a detailed breakdown of the vehicle unladen weight. Note that some of these components are exerting negative weight on the front axle, but this is okay because the front axle is carrying 42% of the total vehicle weight, so this is not a problem. So we'll go to our bridge view, which is next here. So this compares the actual gross weight on each axle group with permissible weights as per bridge law. And here we've got our center of gravity view. So this reviews the center of gravity points, including the overall center of gravity here. You can pin any center of gravity points that you'd like the one for the crane here. So the next view is our turning radius view. This is the smallest circle in which the truck can turn. We can also go down here to notes and warnings, and we can see things like the static rollover angle of the vehicle. Okay, and we'll just go back to side view here. Okay, to export one or more views to a PDF document customized with your own logo, click the PDF icon on the top here. Okay. The PDF includes a sign-off area, and you can print, download, or email directly to your customer. To choose the views to be included in the PDF document, you can go up here to Settings and go to Reports. and you can toggle between the current views and selected views and choose between them here. Yeah. So then if you need help at any time, please reach out to the TruckScience team via the live chat here at the bottom. And you can schedule a screen share session for more advanced assistance. So before I head back out to the home screen, are there any questions there, Circa?
Yes, John, there are a few interesting questions here. So one was around the cab gap. Somebody suggested that there always needs to be a 3 to 6 inch gap between the service body and the back of cab. So John, if you can just click back on the configuration screen, we'll go back to the live calculation and I can address that one. For the current calculation, if you can just click on the body, the service body itself, please, John, on the drawing. And then if you go to the position tab right beside specification at the top, you'll see that there is a cab to body clearance dimension. So if you just select the checkbox in that field, John, and type 3 inches in there, and just tab out of the field, you'll see the body is shifted back by 3 inches. However, there is a way to set this rule as well for your organization. So if you go to the dashboard below the vehicle, please, John, and if you click on organization standards, these are rules that aren't stipulated by the manufacturer, Ford, or the regulations for the state in which this vehicle is going to be operated. These are what we call organization standards, or your own internal guidelines in your own organization. So if you can just click on the little settings cog beside organization standards, please, John, we are able to set an organization standard of, say, a minimum of 3 inches for the cab to body clearance. So John, just in that third empty drop down, if you can just select that for a moment, please. And you see the third item there is cab to body clearance. If you click that one, and then you can set, say, a minimum of 3 inches, 3, and then a maximum of 6. And now if you just tab out of that and then select OK. So now we've got this cab to body clearance check that the cab to body clearance needs to be, say, between 3 to 6 inches. So John, if you just take the service body now and drag it slowly until we exceed that 6 inches, you'll see that the cab to body clearance is no longer compliant with what our organization says cab to body clearance should be. In the same way, if John makes the cab to body clearance less than 3 inches by dragging the body slightly forward, it should go green for a moment and then red again when the cab to body clearance falls below the stipulated minimum. So that's a nice question just to demonstrate that feature. There was another question around the book icon. So John, if you can just click on the body again to open the body menu. And if you go to the weight tab. So the body, oh, this is a standard body, is it? Yeah, sorry, this is a body that you've this is a body that you've imported. I get that now. Okay, so if you can just cut this body off for a moment, please, John, and add a template service body instead. And if you can click on the body again to open the menu and go to weight. And you'll see there's a book icon beside the body weight field. John, if you can just click on that book. And this, as I said in the live questions, that book icon really represents a lookup table or, a suggested values really that you could use in that field. So for instance, heavy duty aluminum 140 or standard steel 150. So yeah, the book is really just like a lookup table. So that's that one. There was another question around, can you talk about the 80% pusher axle rule? So we'll grab a different vehicle in a moment, but I see there are a couple of more questions. So yeah, someone else asked, can we add 3 pusher axles? And is there a means of so it can no longer be used by outside distributors? Okay, yeah, so this is a relevant question while we're on this screen. John showed you earlier how when you import your own bodies, you can make them available or you can save them either in your own personal library, obviously for use just by yourself in future. In your team library, they will be reusable by others in your organization. To a distributor library where they are accessible by users outside of your own organization, users of TruckScience, but not all users of TruckScience. So these are users who you have approved to give access to. And then the last area of the library is the public library, which is accessible by all TruckScience users. So this question is about that third option, adding bodies to the distributor library. And this attendee has asked if there is a means of redacting a shared custom body or accessory so that's no longer able to be used by outside distributors. And the answer to that question is most definitely yes. If you set up a distributor library, if you're on an enterprise subscription and you create a distributor library who you approve access to other users of TruckScience to use, at any time you can add or remove products from that library. It's very much under your own control. You can add or remove users who are allowed to have access to it, and you can add or remove products to it. Somebody asks, is all of this functionality available in the Essentials plan? The answer to that is no, it is not, but I will cover that later. We can look at all of the plans later when we can look at the pricing page. Okay, and the other one was about adding pusher axles, and one of the questions I already answered was about pusher axles. So we'll, John, if you would like to save this configuration in case we need to get back to it later on. If you just use the save as icon there at the top beside the PDF icon, we just open another vehicle just to talk about pusher axles for a moment. And in the meantime, if anyone would like ask another question, please feel free to do so. So John, we just go back to the home screen for a minute to choose a new chassis. So if you can just you can click on the reset to start over here and go to Kenworth, which is in the fourth line.
Yeah.
T880, 6x4. And you can just use the first one in that list, please, John. You'll see that the dimension below the drawing is currently CT or cab to tandem. With a vehicle like this, you might be more likely to think of the chassis dimensions in terms of wheelbase. So I'll just show you quickly where to change from cab to tandem to wheelbase first in your dimensions. And that is if you access this settings icon, which is like the second one from the end on the top row there, the settings cog. And go to preferences. And where you see in the second row, it says specify chassis dimensions as, you can choose wheelbase. And then if you just OK out of this. So you see now the WB or the wheelbase dimension is in blue, which means it's editable. So John, if you just want to click on that wheelbase dimension, the 161 for a moment, please, and override that field and maybe make it 185 or something, just to give us a little bit of extra space on the chassis. Yeah, and now we'll add a pusher axle. So to do that, if you go to the vehicle menu, which is the top icon on the top left, and the weights and axles tab, and you can see the flashing plus icon there. If you just click on that to add a pusher axle. And then if you want to just click on axle 2 to open that pusher menu. So you'll see this is where you specify the weight of the pusher and then the axle weight rating for the pusher axle. You can also specify in the last, the second to last field or the last field, depending on how you look at it, the percentage of the total rear axle group weight that will be carried by this axle. So it has defaulted to 27.7%. And in general, the program will offer you sensible defaults where possible. You can override those just by clicking into the field. So if you just click there in in that checkbox, that you can edit the field. If you just click on the little information icon, the little I beside the field, John, these information icons help you to understand what exactly is meant by, I suppose, the field labels. So this is the portion of the weight of all of the rear axles combined that's carried by this axle, and it can be controlled, for example, by the air pressure in the suspension. So this, I guess the in-depth details of the pusher axle feature, probably a little bit above my pay grade. If this does not answer your question about the pusher axle, we would be more than happy to set up a screen share session with one of our engineers for the person that asked that question, and we'll show you how to do that in a little while. So the program does come with unlimited support, and we can set up a screen share where you can work through an example or a sample calculation or vehicle with one of our engineers. I hope that's answered that one. And I see there are a few more questions come in here, so I just want to check if there's anything. Does the software allow us to add in total 3 pusher axles? I think the answer may be no, but let's try and add one more pusher, John. So if you just click on the vehicle menu again and weights and axles and plus, try one more pusher. So that's 2. John, if we can just edit the wheelbase dimension to give us a little bit more space again. So yeah, if you click on WB and maybe make this 240, for instance. And now try adding one more pusher, but I think we'll have hit a limit if we do this. So push, yeah, either adding additional axles is not currently permitted in this scenario. That would be as per your chosen state maybe, or you've reached the maximum number of axles that the app supports. And I think in this case, it's the latter. So the maximum of 4 axles on the rear, I think. I will check that and get back to you with the definitive answer on that as well. So let's see. Okay, there were a couple more questions. Where can we access this tool was one, and the answer to that is from our website, from our homepage, TruckScience.com. John will show you that later anyway, but if you go to TruckScience.com, you're more than welcome to take a free trial of the program. The standard free trial is 7 days, but NTA members are entitled to a 30-day trial. So if you just put in your NTA membership details, you can extend that for 30 days. And then there was another question about whether the tool was free to NTA members or if there's a charge. And unfortunately, the answer to that one is that there is a charge, and we will cover that in just a moment. John has that covered in a slide, so I can leave that for a moment until we get there. Thanks, John. That's oh, sorry, there's one other question that's come in now. When adding a tuck under lift gate, is there a way to determine the ground clearance? As far as I know, the ground clearance is not checked for a tuck under lift gate just yet. We add features or update features in the software every 2 to 3 months. We have a development team who are constantly working on, I guess, enhancing the tool. So with questions like that one, we do record the question and we keep a record of how many users are asking for different features, and that helps the feature to bubble up to the top of our development priority list. So I will check that, but as far as I know, we don't yet measure the ground clearance under the tuck under lift gate, but I will add your vote to that one. And if you want to maybe just type your name or email address in there, I can get back to you when that feature is implemented then, because I cannot see the email address of the person that asked that question. Yeah, so that's John, that's it for now for questions. We can maybe come back again later, check if there are any more questions a bit later, but if you want to carry on for now, please.
Okay, perfect. So before we wrap up, I'll point out a couple of things here in settings again. So we saw that you can switch between regulations for US states, both state and interstate roads and Canadian provinces. So you see here, and you can define your favorite measurements and organization standards. In the measurements tab here, you can define your preferred measurement system, metric or imperial, and how you'd like the dimensions or weights to be incremented by when you use the up and down tickers. In our preferences tab here, you can specify cab dimensions as front axle to back of cab or bumper to back of cab, and specify chassis dimensions as wheelbase or cab to axle, as Circa was saying there. You can specify the body position and the equipment position from the back of the cab and the frontmost axle. So if we go to reports here, you can customize your logo for the reports and your NTA login details here to qualify for a discount or a 30-day free trial. So let's pop back to the home screen here, and I'll just go through a few other sections. So here down in resources, we can see here that we've got explainer videos, case studies, webinar recordings, and useful documents. This is where you'd find your OEM bodybuilder manuals. And if you need help importing a drawing or preparing a drawing for import, you can do it here in the explainer video section. And the calculations shared with me, you'll find calculations belonging to other users, which they have chosen to share with you in the same way the calculation was shared with the drafting technician earlier. I won't click on this now just for privacy reasons. In my saved calculations here, it's pretty self-explanatory. You can perform the usual file management tasks here, like renaming, organizing them in nested folders, etc. Okay, so lastly, when starting a new calculation here, you'll remember that we chose a manufacturer or Ford spec. So I'll just reset the filters here. You can choose here under type, you can choose chassis cab, semi-trucks, pickups. And also, and if we don't have the vehicle you want, you can request a vehicle here if you didn't find it in the library. If you want to play around with the conceptual vehicle, you can just grab a generic template here. So just, for example, I'll take a 4x4 conventional cab. These graphics are obviously not as realistic. There's much greater flexibility in terms of what you can edit. So maybe the best option if you're in a hurry for a vehicle and it's not yet in the library. Okay, so that about wraps up the demo for today. So I'll just flick back to my presentation now, but just before I do, Circa, just double check there's no other questions that we can answer now.
There is just one more question that's come in here, John. It's in addition to bodybuilder guides, do you also maintain a library of incomplete vehicle documents? Again, the answer to that is no, we do not. And that is something we can look at if that's maybe something that would be useful to a lot of our users. So if there is anyone else on the call that agrees that they would like to see that feature implemented, please do add your voice there. But yeah, for now, no, we do not maintain a library of IVDs. That's it for now, John.
Okay, cool. So I'll go back to my slides. Okay, so I know we covered quite a lot in a short space of time. If you feel like you could still use a personalized demo for yourself or your colleagues who weren't able to attend today, I'd be happy to set that up for you. You can do that right away by booking at the bottom of the TruckScience website here, or you can scan this QR code on the screen with your phone. I'll just give people a few seconds there in case they do actually want to scan it and book a demo. Okay, I'll move on to the next slide now. So if you'd like to find out more about TruckScience, you can look at our page on NTEA's website at ntea.com/TruckScience. You'll find lots of videos and testimonials on our own website, TruckScience.com. We'll be on the NTEA's partners booth at Work Truck Week in Indy next month, and you can find the details of our upcoming trade shows on our website also. If you're not already using TruckScience, please help yourself to a free trial from our homepage at TruckScience.com. NTA members who add their membership details will have their trial automatically extended from 7 to 30 days and will also qualify for a discount on checkout. I've included a slide on pricing here as well, as the question normally comes up. The professional edition is one upfitters normally go for. That costs $1,200 per year for one user, or say $6,000 for 7 users. The Enterprise Edition for used by manufacturers who wish to share their product specs with distributors costs $4,000 for one user, or $8,800 for 7 users, say. NTA members get $100 off an annual subscription to the TruckScience Axle Weight Calculator. So that's all for today, folks. I'll end this webinar in just a moment. But before you go, could you please rate the webinar and leave any comments or questions? If you'd like to receive a quote, just indicate how many users you think you need. And thank you for joining us, and goodbye.